An important thing when you're trying to sell a product, don't talk about how it's going to benefit you, or don't mention you, me. It's always, how can this product save you time?
Yeah.
This is how it's going to benefit you.
What are the mistakes you should avoid?
Being overconfident. Confidence is a good thing, but cocky, not so much.
Right.
Don't assume that your customers don't know as much or not more than you, because that's a quick way to lose a sale and hurt your reputation.
Hey, Sal.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah. What? Did you have a good weekend?
It was good. Don't really remember much of what I did. I just always so much to do. The honey-do list is
Right,
always
right.
huge. So
Absolutely. So welcome to Business Club.
thank you. I'm very pleased to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Most welcome. What we do here in this podcast is talk to business persons like you and, try to understand a little bit more about you and what you do
hmm
and how you go about doing it, and then where did your revenue come from and things like that, so that we can actually encourage our next generation or someone who wants to get into your business, similar business as you. It's a win-win. You get the exposure, and they get the knowledge.
Right. Absolutely.
So looking forward for our conversation.
As am I. I am too. Definitely.
Great. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about your background. Where do you come from? Where are you based in Charlotte? And also a little bit background before you started this business.
Okay. I'm born and raised in Hyde Park, New York.
Okay.
Home of Franklin Roosevelt, Culinary Institute of America, bunch of big things, Marist College. We have our claim to fame was Rick Smits, who played for the Pacers.
Nice.
He actually graduated with my cousin. Not a big town, but, pretty famous for some of the things up there. Met my wife up there. We've been married for going on 30 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. We've got 3 boys, all graduates of Nation Ford, which is right across the street.
Right.
2 of them are graduates now of Winthrop, and my third one is going there as well.
Okay, nice.
So
Okay.
I'm trying to keep them all local as we can.
So when did you move to Charlotte?
We moved to Fort Mill in 2000. We bought our house in January of 2007. And my wife moved down, I think, around April or May, and I came down after the kids got out of school.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. We've seen a lot of growth down here.
Yeah, Fort Mill has changed dramatically.
It has.
Yeah, and how long have you been in business?
I started my business, Brenco, back in April when I bought a franchise. I needed to have an LLC to oversee it, so I started that.
April 2024?
April 2024,
Okay.
yes. I had been thinking about it and had met with a friend of mine, telling him that I wanted to start doing some coaching work and teaching people how to do networking and things like that, because he was doing it himself.
Oh, okay.
And he actually brought this idea of this franchise to me, Network in Action. So I met with the owner and really liked it and decided that I would jump in and move forward.
And what were you doing before that?
I've done several things. When I lived in New York, I was actually a pharmaceutical rep.
Okay.
I've got a bachelor's in business communications from Marist College and a master's in nonprofit administration from Marywood University in Scranton. I worked in nonprofit for a number of years as a nonprofit fundraiser. Decided that I wanted to make money and went into pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. I was supposed to transfer here. Unfortunately, my transfer fell through, and I waited 6 months for the position to open, and then they had a hiring freeze because a couple of the products went generic. So I did a few different things. I had started another business called Sync Marketing, and I was a contract salesperson for some smaller businesses, sold promotional products and things like that. When COVID hit, most of my customers couldn't afford to have anybody because their clients weren't, buying anything. So that kind of put me out looking for something to do. So I had a couple of part-time jobs in the meantime, and worked for a friend of mine for a few months in January of this year, and it didn't work out, and decided, you know what, I need to go back out on my own, because I had that work ethic, and I don't want to be beholden to anyone else. I want to be able to work, 80 hours a week if I want to, and make it worth my time.
Yep, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. So what is that pivotal moment that actually led you to the Brent Group?
It's something that I'd thought about for a long time. And like I said, I had met with my friend, and it was kind of a combination of the two. One, I wanted to start doing coaching. So many people don't do networking right.
Right.
When I moved here, I knew one person,
Hmm.
and it went hard from being the guy who knew everybody and was related to everybody up in New York to knowing one person down here. So it took me a long time to learn really how to network properly.
Right.
Down here in the Charlotte area, you can go to a networking event probably 3 times a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And
The networking is so powerful here.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't, unless you know what you're doing or what you're looking for, it just could be fruitless.
Right. Right.
So I really wanted to be able to teach people how to do it right and effectively and get the most out of what they do.
So basically, what you do is you do networking.
Mm-hmm.
You do coaching on networking.
Correct.
You also have a networking franchise.
Correct.
Called Network in Action.
Correct.
Talk to me a little bit about the Network in Action.
Network in Action is a franchise, a referral group franchise. It was started 10 years ago. We just had our 10th.
What do you mean by a referral group?
Bringing businesses together to help them, help them build relationships.
Right.
Network in Action, one of their main goals is to generate relationships that last a lifetime.
Right.
And, so many people with sales are transactional, and they think, I want to make a sale, and once I get it, that's it. But that's only good for now. You've got to, have your sales funnel. And you've got to plan ahead.
Right.
And if you're only building something for the next sale, it's really not going to serve you well.
Absolutely.
So I try to do networking and sales coaching, and also just within the last couple of months integrated AI into that as well.
That's awesome. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, that is great. It's amazing. I absolutely love what's available and how you can do, what you can do with that. Great. So with the networking group, so many groups, they meet weekly, and they've got a standard format, and you come in, you give your elevator pitch, you say, well, I have this, I have that. And there's really little time to actually do learning or anything. Network in Action does it differently, where we don't meet in the morning, because a lot of times business owners and especially contractors and blue collar workers, first thing in the morning, they've got to get their guys out on the road.
Right.
So they don't have that opportunity because they have to be at their office. Nighttime makes it difficult after 5 for a lot of people, because they have to get home. They want to see their kids. They've got after school activities. And then every week just gets to be a little bit too much for some people. So Scott, who actually started the company back 10 years ago, went and looked to see, what do people really like about networking groups and what don't they like? So he took everything that people don't like and took it out and created something completely different. So we meet once a month. We meet on the second Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of the month, because typically, which if you think about it, except for some very rare holidays and some, non big religions,
right.
There's nothing that happens on the second week of the month.
Yeah.
In any month of the year. So you don't have to worry about not having a meeting, because, you're coming up on Labor Day or 4th of July or any of those. So we then also meet in the afternoon between 3 or 3:30 so that people can be out and on the road and back home by 5:30. We meet at a restaurant so people can grab a drink. I typically will buy a first round of drinks for everybody, a glass of wine, a bottle of beer, soda if they want, whatever. And we'll have some appetizers. And we have an agenda, a unique agenda every month, where we'll talk about growing your business, using AI in your business, how to generate sales in a down economy, something that actually helps people with their business, as opposed to teaching them how to be a better member of that group.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you're adding value by educating the stuff that they really need to know.
Correct.
To enhance their business.
Right. Okay. And then we have an online portion as well. There's 3 optional meetings a month, which are Zoom meetings that they can participate in. We also encourage them, if they have coworkers or anything, that they're welcome to join those as well, because it is, it's virtual.
Got it. Now, I read somewhere your, tagline for Brentco, which says empowering connections and elevating sales. Can you expand that on a little bit?
Empowering sales, obviously, and growing connections. Empowering connections, growing sales. If you empower connections, again, we're trying to establish and build relationships that last a lifetime.
Yes.
And that's really what I've tried to do my whole life.
Right.
I have people that I met 20, 30 years ago selling them something when I was up in New York, and I'm still friends with them today. And it was transactional. I sold ad copy for a little while in a newspaper, and sold them some ads for their business that they haven't had in 20 plus years.
Right.
But we keep in touch on Instagram, on Facebook. When I'm up in New York, we'll get together. So these are people that I've never looked at someone as it's just an opportunity for a sale. I always want to be, maybe it's because of my nonprofit background and my, inborn need to want to help people, that I'm genuine. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And I look for people to do business that are the same. So by building those relationships, I know that no matter anytime I need something, I can reach out to them.
Absolutely.
So by building those relationships, you're then, growing sales, because they always say do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
I think there's more to it than that. They've got to trust you, yes, but it's that relationship.
It's building the relationship first before you ask for a sale.
Right. Exactly.
I agree. I 100% agree with you on that. Do you want to share some success stories that you've had in, say, Network in Action or the Brentco group? So I know it's been a short time.
Right.
But anything that you want to talk about?
Some of that, it's relatively new. I've made some great relationships with people that are members of my group already. I've introduced people that would have never met each other, and somebody from Steel Creek with someone with an attorney who's in Fort Mill, and they've been able to work together. But I think that's really, the heart of it. For a long time, my tagline that I had on my LinkedIn profile was the "I got a guy from York County." Because like I said, I knew one person, and I pride myself now. And if somebody needs something in Fort Mill, Rock Hill, Indian Land, they'll either send me a text, they'll give me a call and say, "Hey, do you know somebody?"
Right.
And if I don't, they know that I'll find somebody that knows somebody.
Okay. That's amazing. Find someone who knows someone who can do something for them.
Exactly.
Cool.
So that's what I was, because when I moved down here, it was like, oh, that's an unusual name. And I'm like, oh, you're not from New York. Because up there was, are you related to?
Right.
And I would say yes.
So what's the structure of your meeting generally? I know you said you discuss things that are of value to people, but are there any structure to the monthly meetings?
They are. We follow kind of a pattern where the first 10, 15 minutes, people just come in, kind of get a drink. We'll socialize with each other. If we have guests, we'll introduce the guests. We'll go around maybe for 15 seconds each, just to say how my name is and I'm with such and such a company, just so everybody knows who's in the room. We might give a few extra minutes to the guests if they're there as well, to let them know. Then we have kind of a really quick agenda. I remind people we do a point system instead of to try to get people to, it's hard to get people to put in the referrals and all that.
Right.
So we actually have a list, a running total that's on our website. So everybody in the group can see where they're ranking against everybody else in the group. And we're trying to have
like a leaderboard?
A leaderboard, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So we're looking for that A-type personality that wants to win.
Do you have any prizes for them?
I do. I give out between a $10 and a $20 gift card every month.
Okay, for the
person that wins.
Okay.
My health insurance person has won actually the last 4 months, and I've been throwing out a challenge to everybody. I'm like, not that I don't like giving her the prize, but
so if somebody likes to refer, basically the person in your group has to go out and refer, and then you know who's referred,
right? And
then you keep a tag of who's referred. Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. Okay.
And if they come to the meeting, they get points. If they do a one-to-one, they get points.
Okay.
If they post to the website, there's points.
It's like a loyalty point.
It is, pretty much. And by giving them a prize, I'm kind of making it a little bit more of a competition, so somebody wants to win.
Yeah, it's the gamification for networking.
Right.
It's amazing. So in the last couple of months that you've been at Business Club, you talked about, I know you met with Steve Edwards.
Correct.
And you've been talking about AI and the kind of influence that it has had on your business. So walk me through that entire journey from identifying what AI could do and then talking to Steve and understanding how the AI can actually change your business, and then you going ahead and doing it.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny because probably 3 or 4 months ago, I'd heard of it, but had no idea what it was.
Okay. Most of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And, Steven came in and did the presentation, and something just went off in my head. I was like, this is really cool. I really like this a lot. And from that point, I actually had him come and speak at 2 different groups that I run. And each time I learned so much more. And it's funny because at that point, I started thinking, Well, we do something very similar with Network in Action. We have an organization where we can find out personalities
Mm.
of potential members.
Persona, you mean?
Yes,
Hmm.
for business,
Yeah.
and it was something that we have to pay a subscription to. So actually, while he was speaking at one of the groups, I started messing around with my Chat GPT
Yeah.
and started designing something. And by the time the meeting was over, I had already figured out how to create what we can purchase from
Right.
this organization, but do it on my own for free through my own AI.
Mm.
I started thinking about it more and more, and thought there could be so much more that we could do with that.
Okay.
As a salesperson, how beneficial would it be if you could go into a meeting like you and I right now, and I could know your likes, your dislikes,
Right.
your hot buttons,
Yeah.
what a great topic would be to speak with you about that would engage you. And then I started thinking, well, what if I want to send out an email to invite you to a meeting?
Sure.
If I could have the subject line being something that would grab your attention, an email that would be exactly targeting what you want to talk
Yeah.
about, and then also come up with something saying, this is why or why not you would be a good member or person of
Right.
interest for me to work with, and how you would benefit my
Yeah,
group.
absolutely.
So I designed that.
That's awesome. So how did you make a transition to using that persona to your business?
I actually created that so that I would be able to, when I had somebody that was interested in working with a referral group, I would go in and I scraped their information from a couple different sources, input it, and it would give me the information. So then I would go out and it would tell me right up front why they would be good members for Network in Action, what they've done in the past, if it listed it, and it would just give me all this information so that when I went out to speak with them,
You had the
I had all
information.
that information already, and I wouldn't spend the first 10, 15, 20 minutes doing that back and forth, trying to see if they would be a
Good
good
fit,
fit
yeah.
for me.
So you saved a ton of time.
Ton of time.
Okay. That's awesome. How do you help? I know AI so far has been very helpful for bigger companies. Nowadays, even freelancers use AI.
Hmm.
How has Brentco as a company been helping, you know, your clients using AI as a tool?
Well, it's amazing because you really can use it for just about anything.
Of course.
But the biggest thing is being able to tell it what you want. People are so concerned that it's going to take jobs away, or
Yeah.
I look at it as a tool that gives me an extra 40 hours a week.
Right.
Because the time that I'm not spending, creating Facebook posts, having to go through and create LinkedIn stories or articles, I go in and I will say, I want an article to talk about AI, but I wanted to discuss how it helps a small business owner who has X number of employees, who lives in York County, South Carolina.
Right. Yeah.
And I want you to extract from local records information about how businesses do business and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So where I don't have to go on Google and do all this searches and kind of go to all these websites. Now that ChatGPT is connected with live search, it does it for you.
Yeah. So you create GPT, or you do it individually?
I use the GPT. I have also created several GPTs to use that are specific to what I need.
Target. Okay.
Right.
Very good.
So that I don't need to, go back and recreate the wheel each time. It's ready to go.
Nice. So you created this personal profiler pro, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Is that for sale, or is it?
That's my plan.
That's your plan. You create that and you sell it.
Yes. I'm actually working on a website. I was having my GPT help me design the website. It got a little bit overwhelming, so I'm going to be meeting with someone to help me do that. But I have the website domain name already. It's personaprofilerpro.com.
Nice. Okay.
If you go to that, it actually has a login page. That's all I've got so far
Okay.
with the logo. But yeah, it's going to be subscription based. And the details, I'm still working out exactly, how much per month it's going to be. I have researched to see that there are other programs out there that are very similar. However, they're much more limited in scope. I have the most comprehensive search that anyone that I've found has done. So,
very nice.
and I've actually checked with a couple. It's funny because one of the things I told Steven when we were talking about it, I was like, how do you know which AI source or platform you should use.
Right.
And he says, well, they all do basically the same thing. And I actually asked ChatGPT to tell me which ones were the best and why. And I didn't want it to be specific and pick itself. And it actually came out pretty, gave me about 6 or 7 different options. And it listed out exactly, what it's used for and why and how you use it. And
so explain to me, is that like a wrapper on what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Okay. And particularly targeted
Correct.
personas. Okay. So when somebody logs in and you will be able to have ChatGPT in there with this
Correct.
particular GPT configured, and they just
Right.
type in, hey, I want this information.
Right. And because I already created about a 2-page profile of what the questions they'll need to ask so that they can obtain the information that I get, that it provides me for Brenco and for Network in Action. Because I wanted to be able to recreate exactly the information that I get.
Right.
So I've spent a bunch of time going back and forth with my GPT to get that information so that I can extrapolate that. And when anybody goes in, they can input that information on a fillable form, and it will then automatically put that information in about their business and what their needs are. That way, when they say that, they're looking for X, Y, or Z, and they input this person's background information, it will then compare it to their own company.
Great. So have you faced any challenges in introducing them to, say, traditional industries or marketplace?
Not yet. I mean, people are really excited about it from what I've seen. I actually met with a woman this morning, was talking to her about it. And she's like, yeah, I'm kind of scared of that. I really don't get that involved in it. I'm not sure about it. But she goes, I see a need for it.
Yeah.
And she says, I really, think that what you're doing is huge and it's, exciting. So I'm excited. I love learning new things.
Of course.
And it's just so much easier to be able to go on and search that way. I mean, I use it for writing my emails. I use it for doing text messages. I mean, I run everything through. Another friend of mine the other day was going for a job interview, and he has 34 years experience in the military, and he wasn't really sure how it would really relate to the job he was going for.
Right.
So I said to him, have you run it through an AI? And he goes, no, I hadn't thought about that. I said, well, I know you don't have a subscription, so send me your resume.
Right.
And while I was there with him, I said, what's the name of the company? I put it in. I said I wanted to see if I could get the job description for that position, which it was able to pull up. When I got back home, I put in and I compared his resume to the job description. And I said, okay, now can you pull out what the overlap is and how what he has done in his position in the military would be relatable to this job and how those strengths would be good for the job.
Yeah.
And it gave me bullet points of everything. I sent it to him. He looked at it, he was like, this is fantastic, but I really want to make it more conversational when I talk to them. So I went back in. I said, love the information. However, we would like to make this more of a conversation. So when he's asked how to do it or how he does things, how would it work? And it gave me out all these different topics. I spoke to him the day after and he said, it was fantastic. He said, I got 4 interviews that day. He goes, it really went well. I think it's going to go well for me.
Awesome. So if you were to price it, what level would you be pricing and what's your plan?
My plan is first, based on other programs and platforms that are out there, they range between $50 and $100 a month for a single user. So I'm looking at probably somewhere around $79.95 per single user.
Okay.
And then we'll build from there. I do want to offer some type of a maybe simple questionnaire so that somebody can get from the homepage just to see how it works.
Right.
And I'm not really big on giving freebies.
It doesn't make
because
sense.
To me, I know that it works. And I mean, I'll let them, they won't have to be like a long-term subscription if they want to do it month to month, and there'll be discounts if they do long-term, like a lot of other programs. Sense, but so that's my plan. And, if there's companies that want to use it, we'll have different levels for corporate and things like that.
Makes sense. So are you planning to set up your own team to do all that, the support and the web development and all that?
Eventually.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still in the planning stage.
Yeah. I mean, I'm literally kind of just thought of it about a month ago and started playing with it myself and kind of just realized, this is really, I was talking to a couple of friends actually and said, this is something, I think I'm coming at it from a different angle. A lot of people that have designed these other platforms only doing it on a limited scale because they're developing it as a developer.
Right.
I'm looking at it as a
User.
salesperson
Yeah,
and what would benefit me.
Makes sense.
And each time I've come up with this is probably the third or fourth iteration of what I've decided to do. Because each time I do it, I think of something else. I go, oh, I could add this.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So, we talked about AI, we talked about network in action. Let's talk a little bit about community and your involvement and the personal connections you've made. I know you're involved in a couple of them. So, yeah.
I've always been very involved in the community. My biggest passion is for our veterans. I actually do offer 25% off. I will offer for my Brenco
Any
group.
reason why?
I think without them, we don't have anything.
Okay, I was thinking maybe you had a veteran background.
My father was a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah, okay.
But no, I had an opportunity when I was younger to go to West Point and I didn't go. My girlfriend in high school begged me not to do it, so I didn't. Everything works out for a reason. I wouldn't have had met my wife, had my kids if I had gone that path.
Right.
So I don't regret it. But I've always felt the strong passion for our veterans. We take for granted our freedoms.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense.
So I've got a passion for them. But as far as I was a founding member of the Fort Mill Elks Lodge back in 2009. I served as the president of that 4 times. Unfortunately, with the way volunteerism is going nowadays, hard to get younger people involved. We actually ended up giving our charter back just 2 years ago.
Okay.
So that I'm no longer involved with that. But when a friend of mine had approached me about getting involved, I said, I don't really know what the Elks is. I know my dad was a member when I was a kid, but other than going to the Christmas party, I didn't know much about it. And he told me it's about taking care of our education of our kids, drug awareness for kids, and supporting our veterans. So that got me hooked.
Very nice. And you're also, I believe, involved in the Strawberry.
I am. I'm on the Strawberry Festival Committee. I think this is my 6th year that I've been involved with that.
Oh, really? Okay.
My Elks Lodge was involved with it from the very first one. We had a food booth, and I ran the food tent a few times. But then I decided to transition over, and I help out with the day of, but I also work with all the vendors as well.
So you do the vendor management?
I do.
Okay. Very nice. Okay. So how does it like to be on sitting in that committee and overseeing things while also developing your business? Have you tried that, or it's just brand new?
No, I really I haven't tried that. I try to keep them actually pretty much separate. I feel like my involvement in the community, I like doing it because it's the right thing to do.
So if the business is not involved, you are involved.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always it's my giving spirit.
Yeah,
I like to just volunteer. I've helped out on 2 presidential campaigns.
Interesting.
I worked, when I first moved here, I had been involved in politics up in New York. And when I moved here, I said I was going to get out of it. And within a year, I was working on Fred Thompson's campaign.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I worked on Ben Carson's campaign in 2014.
Oh, okay.
And had the opportunity to meet with him several times, which was really
very, very nice.
Pretty exciting. Yeah. But yeah, so I do that. I actually volunteer now with the Crime Stoppers York County. I was just got on their board last month.
Okay, what do they do?
We actually help provide. We work with the sheriff's department directly, and get leads for top wanted criminals in the area, and provide monetary. What do you call it? Monetary not approval. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. If somebody sends a tip for a tip, we offer monetary rewards to
like
people.
Rewards for them, like a bounty.
Yep. So we do fundraising and things like that to help offset that. So it's rewarding. I volunteer with a food pantry down in Rock Hill. That's called Basket of Blessings. I got involved with them because one of their main people that they help are homeless and disadvantaged veterans.
Yeah.
So I volunteer with them twice a week.
That's amazing. It looks like you're involved with like 3 to 4 communities, community causes.
Yep.
And you also have a couple of businesses.
Right.
How do you balance both?
I'm actually really kind of slow at this point. I used to do a lot more.
What does a lot more look like?
I used to coach 2 of my kids' soccer teams.
Oh, wow.
But they used to be on travel. I used to travel with them pretty much every weekend. I was on the board for the York County Regional Chamber of Commerce. I was the chair of the Fort Mill chamber when the Fort Mill had its own local part of the Chamber of Commerce. So I was chair of that. I ran a couple networking groups back then too. So I feel like I'm really not doing much anymore.
Like, how much is too much?
I love being busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, what did
Me
they say?
too.
Idle hands.
Yeah, you know, there's a saying somewhere. I said, "Busy people get things done." Yeah, and it's so true.
Oh, I also volunteer at church. I'm on the security team.
Right.
I ran the lighting team in my church for 10 years and just recently got off of the lighting team and volunteer now at security. So
Wow, amazing. So, switching gears a little bit, you know, talked about your NIA, and then you talked about AI, and then talked about community. Let's talk a little bit about sales and networking, the coaching aspect of your business. So, you know, networking can be very transactional at times. What's your approach to making it more authentic and outright?
You know, it's funny. One of the things that I teach people is part of it is know who your audience is, who you're going to see, know the event you're going to. Because like I said, and you said the same thing, you can go, you know, every day, 3 times a day and not actually go to work, just spend your time networking.
Right.
So, I mean, now, especially when you've got Eventbrite and Eventzilla and all these different things, and you can see basically who's going to be at an event. And one thing that I started doing a long time ago is I would look to see if somebody that I really wanted to meet was going to be there. Nothing against other salespeople, but when I first moved here, I was working in commercial furniture and we sold high-end furniture. So going and meeting a salesperson who was a real estate agent or somebody who was just, not just, but you know what I mean, you know, insurance agent wasn't going to get me to the people that I needed. I needed presidents and vice presidents and operations managers to speak with. So I would look and see who was going to be at an event, and I would set my sights on targeting them. So I would make it a point to go and to meet with them, but it would be genuine. I mean, I wouldn't just go in and try to sell them.
Yeah, of course, it doesn't make sense to sell at one first.
Right.
Time.
So I would go in and I would meet them, and I'm actually friends still to this day with some of the people that I did that with.
Yeah, that's something about networking. You know, you should have your sights on, but don't necessarily ask them to pull their wallet.
Right.
Right away.
Yeah, it's important to build a relationship. I know, you know, everybody's got quotas and goals, so they've got things that they have to do. But good sales is more of a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you can, once you've got that relationship or they already know about your product, you know, it's easier to say, okay, well, you know, I am looking for, I mean, even in the first meeting, you can do it, but you can do it in the right way. Nothing drives me more crazy is going into a meeting and talking to someone and they're looking over your shoulder to see who else they can talk to.
Oh, no. That's not advisable. Finish the conversation first.
Right. You know, if you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. Just you know, tell me. I'm like, I'm sorry, you know, there's so-and-so who's over there. I needed to really speak with them. And I'm okay with that. When you came up to me and are talking to me, but then all of a sudden you realize there's somebody more important and you're not giving me the attention. And I know you're not paying attention to what I'm saying.
Right.
You know, you're not going to win any kind of business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. All right. So you were talking a little bit about, you know, how networking needs to be done the right way. What are some of the common mistakes that you know, business owners or networkers make, according to you?
Going to too many things.
Yeah.
Belonging to too many things. I think that's probably one of the biggest. People join everything, and to me, that's you're kind of diluting who you are, and you can't be everything to everyone. So I think that if you're a member of too many different groups, especially if they're, you know, expecting you to bring them referrals, you know, who does your allegiance lie with?
Right, that makes sense.
I think a lot of times people, they might like you, but they might not, I wouldn't say not trust you, but they don't think that they're going to get from you what you promised.
So basically, it looks like, you know, try to find out the ideal networking group that you feel you belong to. Right. And maybe find 1 or 2 of them and then have your allegiance to that. Because of the value that you give in and bring in. And
I've belonged to a couple groups in the past, but I typically try not to make them in the same geographic area. I mean, we're in a small area, but people in Rock Hill are looking for somebody local.
Right.
So I would belong to or had been involved with a group up in Uptown Charlotte. To me, it's different. As far as maybe realtors and things like that, yeah, they can travel both states. But if somebody's looking for a plumber or something, a lot of times they want somebody that's local to their community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I've tried to do. I've never belonged to 3 groups in between Rock Hill and Fort Mill, just because it's, again, I want to be fair, and like I want to build those relationships, and I feel like if I'm not giving the referral to the person that I should be, who I told I would, it doesn't seem right. So to me, it's important to be able to balance that and not.
Makes sense. So you talked about building relationship, lasting connections. If you meet someone today, how do you make those connections last a lifetime? Or, what are the steps involved? What do we need to take care? If you could just throw some light on those.
I really think it's being genuine.
Yeah.
Be honest with who you are, because it's going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
People, they want to know that the person that they're dealing with is actually, there to, benefit them as well. I mean, none of us want to be involved in any kind of a relationship where it's one way.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense.
I mean, and I guess it's, treat others as you want to be treated.
Yeah.
I don't like to be sold to, so I
want to buy, but I don't want to be sold to.
Right. And nobody does. I mean, who wants to be sold to?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you also don't want to see a sales pitch coming a mile away.
Yeah.
I mean, I had something happen a couple of weeks ago. It was clear as day that it was salesy. It wasn't necessarily a sale, but they brought in another gentleman into the room because typically it was just women in the room.
Right.
So it was a way of, I've got one of my own in there. So, thinking that, well, maybe if we bring him in, he'll be more apt to go along with it.
Right.
And I saw it a mile away. They may not have even realized that they did it, but I'm like, I've been in this sales pitch before where, we've gone, my wife and I were away on vacation and sat in through one of those, when you timeshare things.
Yeah.
And of course, the guy that they put in front of us was formerly from New York, knew New York sports and all this stuff because they figured, well, this, they did their research. Well, they're originally from New York, so we got to have this guy there.
Right.
And I'm like, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think it's the biggest thing is being genuine and, really caring.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons, again, that I started Brandco and why I bought my franchise is, not only do I know a lot of people, I like to make those connections and to be able to help somebody and genuinely care that they succeed is important to me.
Absolutely.
And because those are the people I'm introducing, I want to make sure that the people that they meet are also the same way.
Yeah, it's your credibility on the table.
Absolutely.
So.
That's actually one of the things that we do a little bit differently than other groups as well. We do a criminal background check.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So we want to ensure, because we don't just say, oh, you want to join? Give me a check. There's your seat. We actually want to make sure that the people that we bring in, if I don't already personally know them, and I do interview every potential member for our group personally.
Okay.
We don't have any
qualify them.
Right, to qualify them. We don't have any volunteers. I do everything myself. And we want to ensure that when I say, our financial planner is good, he's safe and he's good, we know he's got no criminal history. He's never done anything. I mean,
right.
It's easy enough nowadays. People, unfortunately, aren't always the most up and up. So we just want to make sure that we are providing the best.
Yep. No, makes sense. So if somebody, if someone's struggling in sales, what advice would you give him from a networking standpoint? Because there's a lot of people out there not trying, they're not able to get their foot right in. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give them?
I think being persistent and not giving up and believing in yourself is huge. Too many people don't.
Yeah.
They've got lofty goals for themselves and everything, but they might not believe that they can do it. People can tell.
Right.
If you don't believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
It
comes off as plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's always important. When I was a pharmaceutical rep, I was in the top 6% in the country for my products sold because I genuinely believed in the products. They were great products. And I would go a step above. I also sold an osteoporosis product. And at the time, Medicare, and it might still, I don't know, had a donut hole. And people, elderly people from between $2,000 and I think $5,000 in that area of coverage, they had to pay out of pocket. And they were deciding, these elderly women with osteoporosis would decide, do I buy my medicine or do I buy food?
Right.
And I would go into the doctors and I would say, listen, for the patients that can afford it or have insurance to cover it, please write my scripts.
Right.
The ones that are in that donut hole and can't, give them as many samples as they need, even if it carries them through the whole year.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And yes, I was doing it because I was trying to get the doctor to write more. But at the same time, I genuinely care and I wanted people to be able to get the product that they need so that, God forbid, they wouldn't break a hip and die.
Right.
Because over 50% of patients
they do
pass away from a broken hip. So to me, that was important. And it did raise my, the number of scripts that we got because of that. But the doctors knew that it wasn't just me trying to sell something. I was genuinely caring.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes
and the same thing, I also sold a nasal steroid, and there were 4 on the market at the time. And instead of, to me, getting 0 of 100 is still 0. So when I think too many salespeople, when they try to sell, they want it's all or nothing.
Right.
I would go into the doctor's offices and they would say, I don't want your white papers. I know it says yours is the best. I said, you're right. I said, and so do the other 3 companies. I said, you're the physician. You read it. You tell me, what you think. I said, honestly, it's a Me Too drug.
Yeah.
Where I'm not going to argue with you. I said, but you're not writing any. If you write 1 out of 4, I'd be ecstatic. And they're like, you don't want them all? I'm like, every 4th patient, just write a script for mine. And like, oh, well, yeah, we can do that. And now all of a sudden you got 25% of the market share.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
So I think that's for a salesperson who may be struggling. Everybody's always saying, numbers, 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 but 0 is 0.
Yeah. So I think it's very, very important to understand and, you don't have to capture the market.
Right.
100%. It can be a small portion of.
I've always looked at it as there's enough business to go around.
Yeah.
And I've also, I think for salespeople, the important thing is don't be afraid of competition.
Yeah.
Don't shun your competition. Don't badmouth your competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't know who's going to be your teammate next week, next month. But also at the same time, sometimes you get a customer that isn't a good fit for you.
Right.
You can be a hero to that person if all of a sudden you say, you know what? Unfortunately, I'm either too busy, I can't do that service, or we don't do that well. Let me refer you to somebody. And now you're giving them the competition business.
Right.
And all of a sudden you've just went from here with that other person up to here because now you have credibility. And you've earned, respect from them because they see, oh, this person actually cares about me. They're looking out for my best interest.
Right.
They could have taken a sale and done a mediocre job and I may have been okay with it, but they want to make sure that I get the best quality.
Right.
Who are they going to call next time? They're going to call the guy that referred him to somebody.
Absolutely. 100%. So I have a hypothetical question. You know Aryan pretty well. And, he's a 22-year-old, turning 23 next summer. For someone like him, who is trying to get into sales, and you're a sales coach, what would you advise him that he does, and what are the things that he should avoid doing? And you can go as long as you want, as short as you want. But I would really like you donning the role of a sales coach and advising someone like Aryan as a youngster who's getting into the sales field.
Don't think act like you know everything. I think that's probably the biggest problem. Because no matter how much you know, there's somebody that knows more than you. I went to a physician the other day for an appointment, and he automatically assumed that I wasn't as intelligent as him, or I couldn't possibly know something because I'm not in medicine. And assumed because I'm in sales, he says, well, I know you didn't take physics, so let me explain how this works. And before I could even say anything, he started going through it. And I'm like, well, I have taken physics. I do know
a little bit
that.
Yeah, maybe more.
Right. And just because I own a networking group franchise doesn't mean that I'm not that I'm not. And I said to my wife too, I was like, he has no idea that I helped you for the last 30 years, 30 plus years, study for your boards every 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I remember a lot of that stuff. So, I read all the time. I listen to things. I remember all that stuff because I just find it interesting. So
Right.
just don't assume that your customers don't know as much or not more than you, because that's a quick way to lose a sale and hurt your reputation.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's probably one of the most important things is just, again, treat people with respect, treat them like you would want somebody to treat you,
Yeah.
and treat your own family. And if you do that, you'll be hugely successful.
What are the mistakes he should avoid?
Being overconfident. Confidence is a good thing, but cocky, not so much.
Right.
I really think that, again, just showing your genuine personality, because people know, and I think especially being personable in this day and age, so many people don't have the interpersonal skills
Yeah.
anymore that, just kind of came naturally to a lot of people. So just to try to keep that in mind. But also an important thing when you are trying to sell a product, features and benefits is really important. Don't talk about how it's going to benefit you, or don't mention you, me. It's always, how can this product save you time?
Yeah.
This is how it's going to benefit you. You mentioned that you love spending time with your children on weekends, but you're always doing X, Y, and Z for work because, well, this is going to give you so many hours back because this is going to revolutionize how you're doing things. And this is how it benefits you. And I think that by not making it about, you, the product, this is the greatest thing ever. Well, why?
Right.
Everybody's got the best product.
Yep.
Everybody sells the best. Like I said before, when I say, you don't need the full market share.
Yeah.
If, as long as you're honest and you say, I can help you in this way, is it going to solve all your problems?
No.
No.
Yeah.
But be honest.
Absolutely. So I'm trying to, the Sal that I know is the Sal of networking in action. But along the way, I found out that a little bit of not a little bit, quite a bit of AI. You've been a lifelong salesperson, and you are the most appropriate or the most apt person to coach someone. So some of my questions are going to be related to sales, and it's not scripted.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
So you talked a lot about discipline. How important is discipline, and you yourself are a shining example of for having a discipline to call, do this, do that, on a day-to-day basis. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of discipline in a career like sales, especially for someone who is as young as them, trying to get into the sales?
I think the biggest discipline is, and everybody says, it's not no, it's not right now.
Right.
I think the biggest setback any salesperson has is, no, I'm not interested. Okay, thank you. And that's the end of it.
No.
And they walk away. If the person is looking for a product, it might not be today, but you already know based on either they called, they checked your website, they did something, they're looking into it. Chances are they're going to buy it from somebody. So, follow up the next day with an email, then follow up a couple days later, set a tickler on your calendar or something to follow up again until they say, I bought it already. Thank you. You might be, I would say you're being annoying, but you're showing your due diligence.
Yeah.
And I think that's where most salespeople fall on their face. They get that no, and they get discouraged, tail between their legs, and they're like, oh, they don't like me. Well, it probably has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it's more to do with their timing rather than your timing.
Exactly. Yeah. But because chances are you found out somehow, unless you're one of, like the old Yellow Pages where you're just, going through the phone book, calling people, hey, you bought a car 10 years ago. Are you interested in buying another car? I mean, that's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
But if somebody has looked up, they put in on a website, they've done an inquiry for whatever reason, they're looking for a merchant services person, and I mean, chances are they've already seen 10 people walk in their door that day.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's more like use a lot of sales intelligence before you approach for any
Yeah,
sales activity.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Do your research before you go out there and sell.
Yep, and have a thick skin
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because it's not personal.
yeah, absolutely. I always say a no is a new opportunity.
Right,
Yeah. So it's not no is for now,
right.
but it could be later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I always say, there's always opportunities. Don't say, a door slammed. Just, an opportunity for a different time.
Right. So you said you did some sales in the pharmaceutical world.
Hmm.
How do you crack big deals,
I partnered with a lot of people,
partner?
with other from different divisions in the company, and we would bring physician groups together, and we would bring in a speaker. Who knew, we'd find out what kind of a topic they're looking for. And I would have somebody, I was in the allergy division and the sleep division. I'd bring somebody from the cardiovascular
Right.
team and something else. And, we'd be able to pool our resources together and get a really good speaker. So, don't be afraid to partner. I mean, I've done that in sales down here. I've had people say, I want to go knock on doors. You want to go? And I'm like, sure. So we'll get two of us, me, doing whatever I was doing at the time, plus somebody who did something that could be comparable as far as, the products that we were selling, and go in together. Because you know what, maybe they've got a better opportunity. The people see them and they want to talk to them and they don't want to talk to me. But, partnership is always important. It does work. Don't be afraid. You're not a, person on an island by yourself.
Yeah.
There's, other people that are trying to.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Brentco Group. Okay, what does Brentco mean?
It's actually my three boys.
Oh, really? Okay.
BR for Brendan, actually BRE for Brendan,
Okay.
D for Dylan, and Colin is the CEO. Yeah, they both make fun of Dylan because he only got the D. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but that's how it fit out.
Yeah,
So
that's cool. Brendan has got BRE and D in it.
he's the firstborn, so I guess he gets the top billing. He'll like that part.
Yeah. I was wondering, why couldn't it be Brandco? Yeah, why is it Brandco? Now there's a story.
Brendan, yep.
Yeah.
And everybody used to call him Brandon. I'm like, it's not Brandon. They're like, oh, you like 90210. And it's Brendan, not Brandon.
Very nice. What are your key goals for 2025 for Brentco and NIA?
NIA, I want to fill my Fort Mill group with at least 20 members.
Awesome.
Like to see 20 to 25 members there, and get my Rock Hill group launched, and hopefully at least have 15 to 20 members there as well.
Very nice. And what are the fees for them?
Our fees for Network in Action, it's $1,995 is a yearly membership. We do take quarterly payments or yearly payments.
The same, or is it broken?
I do it the same. I don't add any fees onto it.
Okay.
I use the same. There's a $200 application fee the one time. However, that goes for the background check. We do a business analysis. We create a web page for them. So that goes, so I'll pay that. It doesn't go into my pocket. That's actually upfront cost that I pay. So that's my goal for that. And for Brentco, I'm getting Persona Profiler Pro up and launched and running. And just finding some salespeople that are really looking, or small business owners that are looking to grow their business for 2025. I've got over 30 years experience in sales. I've done Sandler trainings. I was trained by Sanofi Aventis Pharmaceuticals. I've taken a bunch of classes over the years. And the School of Hard Knocks has taught me a lot.
Hard knocks.
Exactly. Yeah. But, I constantly listen to things and read and try to keep updated. Got my AI certification last month. Again,
Congratulations.
Thank you. When like I said, when I find something that I really like and enjoy, I want to be the expert on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's always been the hardest. Anytime I've gone to a new job somewhere, it's not being the expert. So I do everything I can to be that person.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And what's your long-term goal from all these, both Brentco as well as NIA perspective, say 3 years from now, 5 years from now?
Hopefully to be so successful that I don't have to work as much, spend more time out on vacations and doing the things I love, and probably volunteering more again.
Yeah.
If I had the opportunity to be able to go out and help more people, that would definitely be it. Like I said, also before I did mention that I do like my big passion is for veterans. Like I said, for the Brenco, I offer 25% discount to any
Makes
veteran.
sense.
And for my network in action, I actually give a $400 a year discount to any veteran as
Do you
well.
have the discretion to give that?
I do.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
Yep. I still pay the same amount in royalties, but
Okay.
I don't care.
So what, you collect less, so you pay less?
No, I still pay just as much.
Oh, just as much. Okay.
But to me, it's important because I want to be able to help.
Part of your-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where your heart is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, any tools, programs, or events that you want to announce?
No, like I said, I'm hoping look out for Persona Profiler Pro to be
Customers, okay.
hopefully within the next, definitely by the end of Q1 for 2025. Hoping sooner than that. As far as if there's anybody that's interested in the Strawberry Festival,
Yeah,
first weekend in May,
I would be very interested. We'll talk after this.
applications are already online for vendors.
Oh, really?
They started December 1st. So
Oh, wow.
South
okay.
Carolina Strawberry Festival or scstrawberryfestival.com is where you can get your application.
Yeah, it's like $25 or something, right?
Oh, no,
for
it's
that?
way more than that now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
last time when I saw it was like.
Yeah,
20.
I'm pretty sure it's gone quite a bit.
Okay.
I have no say over how much applications are.
Okay, no problem.
But it should be a lot of fun. We actually have some new events and things coming this year. So
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. So moving on to our next section, which is a little bit of interesting. At the same time, it's going to probably throw some light into your life as well as, the answers that you will give. So take as much time as you want to take.
okay,
Even though it's called rapid fire, it really is not a
Right.
rapid fire.
okay.
So, what's the best business advice you ever received?
That's a good question. I've received a lot. I think probably just be myself. I mean,
Nice. Be genuine.
be genuine. I've tried every different thing under the sun, and kind of like when you go golfing, everybody tells you a specific way
Yeah.
to how
Then
you're supposed to
find
hit
your
the ball. But I always found that the way that I felt
Yeah.
most comfortable was the best.
You be you.
Yeah. So I really think that that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten.
Nice. So AI, in one word, is that an opportunity or a challenge?
It's an opportunity all day, every day.
Very nice. And morning meetings or evening brainstorming sessions?
I only sleep about 3-4 hours a night, so really,
Really?
doesn't matter to me. I send people emails at 4 a.m. So I'd probably say morning is better for me. By the end of the day, if I can, I try to unwind a little bit.
Yeah. What's your favorite unwinding tool?
Hate to say it, but just vegging in front of the TV. I'm a crime junkie.
No wonder you're in Crime Stoppers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, very nice. Okay. One book or resource that every business owner should read?
Anything from Andrew Carnegie.
Okay.
I've always found him to. I mean, it's old school, but
It works even today.
yeah. I mean, he was an amazing business person, and just the insights and foresight that he had was
Very nice.
way beyond his time.
Yep. You've been in networking for some time now, and you've met all these wonderful people. After all those things, networking, do you prefer online or in person?
Definitely in person.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like you can get a better sense of a person
Yeah, absolutely.
face to face.
Personal touch is very important.
I mean, it's kind of like the same thing with doing Zoom meetings. There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
I don't know that networking is really that effective. I don't know how well. I didn't do it back during COVID, so I don't know if it worked well or not. I kind of stepped away for a while from it. But I'm not a huge person for the telephone. I kind of goes the same way with doing Zoom meetings. I'll do a Zoom meeting. I can, coach somebody via Zoom from California, but sitting across from someone like this,
yeah.
I definitely prefer, and I think it's harder to build a relationship when you're seeing somebody on a monitor or on the phone.
Makes sense. What's one productivity tool that you like or would recommend?
Well, if you're in sales, Persona Profiler Pro.
Of course, ChatGPT.
But um, just research in general. Um, I'm a geek when it comes to that. I used to, way back before the internet. I hate to say that I was alive back then, but I would go down to the library and I would go through old microfilm. If there was a topic that I was interested in finding more about,
Right.
I would go and I would just pull all the microfilm out and go back and look through news articles and things like that. Um, One thing I won't mention the name of the organization because they kind of compete with what I do, but lifelong learning is something that you should never give up on.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, if you can't at the end of the day say you didn't learn something new that day, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, active listening and active just paying attention is so important, and that's probably one thing that I would say for people that networking. And they say a lot of people say I can't join a group because I can't give referrals. I don't know anybody. And I said, well, you're in the business, you're out in the world every day. You have to see something.
Yeah.
You just have to pay attention to it. And I use an example about a couple months ago. I was picking a friend of mine up from Piedmont Medical Center, and I'm standing at the front desk, and probably because I listened to everybody's conversations, because I'm nosy. But one receptionist was saying to the other one, I need to get an eye exam. I don't know where to go.
Okay. So I know you network a lot in Fort Mill. Is there any hidden gem that you want to really support? You have about 19-20 businesses that you have already enrolled. Are there any particular business that you want
I'm actually looking to find a great realtor and a great mortgage person.
to? Oh, really? Okay.
I had one of each in my group. They didn't work out, so I'm looking. Those are great seats in the groups, and I would love to find someone
So it's
that's.
exclusive.
It is.
Okay.
We're different than a lot of other groups, though. We don't tell you what your seat is. A lot of groups will have a residential.
Mortgage.
A residential realtor, a commercial realtor, a property manager, somebody who sells just land. If somebody does all four of those, they can do all four in our group. We're not going to
Okay.
tell them, because I've seen in too many groups where you have, especially if it's an insurance broker where somebody does life insurance and somebody does health insurance, but they both do the same thing,
Yeah.
and now you've got competition in the group between two people, and it kind of causes animosity between them. But then at the same time, kind of like we talked about earlier,
Right.
who does your allegiance to?
Mm.
Well, I like them both. Who do I give them to? Well, I give both people to the same person.
Right.
But are you really then giving them,
Yeah.
the best, either one of them, the best service?
Mm.
So that was another thing that Scott decided that, we don't want to cause that tension and conflict within a group.
Right.
And I agree with that. And to me, it's important.
Yeah.
So, we tell you, if you do commercial and residential, that's your job. You tell us what your business is.
Yeah.
We don't tell you what
Yeah.
your business is, because again, we want it to be a large enough group to make it where people can pass referrals.
Yeah. Without having to worry about the competition.
Right. But we don't want to, we're not doing it just to bring in the money. It is, again, about building the relationships. And if you're causing animosity
Right.
within members of your group, how are you going to build, that kind of family atmosphere? When I send an email out to my group, I say NIA family, because to me, all my members are family.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah. So what's the one thing that people misunderstand about sales?
One thing that they misunderstand about sales. I think that the salespeople just want to get paid. I mean, there's a lot of, there are a number of those. I mean, people get that, oh, you're like a used car salesman type of a mentality. But I think there's a lot of genuine people out there. And I think the general public might think that it's easy and that anybody can do it.
Right.
Oh, that you're just a salesperson. It takes like a certain personality
To become a salesperson.
salesperson and to be a successful salesperson.
Yeah.
And I think too many times people get into it thinking, well, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And then a lot of times they try something and, well, I didn't do well, so I'm going to leave. Well, you've got to put in the work. You've got to put in the time. The most successful salespeople, chances are, unless they're some prodigy who just can sell to anybody, it takes time and effort. And you've got to build those relationships. You've got to build that trust. You've got to just work on it. I had a friend of mine who has since passed away, but it didn't matter what he was doing. If I ever needed anything for anything, whatever he had, I would go to him because that was just who he was.
Yeah. So be as genuine as possible.
Yeah, I think it all goes back to be yourself, be genuine, be compassionate,
right,
and just care.
Absolutely, makes a lot of sense. So describe Rentco Group in 3 words. Brendan, Colin.
Okay, Brendan, Colin, and Dylan. My sales passion.
Oh, nice, very nice. So if you could collaborate with one business leader, who would that be?
I'm sure this is going to probably eliminate half of the people watching, but it would be Donald Trump.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Not because I think he's the savior of anything. I mean,
he's got a great business sense.
He is, and he's gone bankrupt a couple times. He's resilient. He doesn't care what people think about him. I know people that have one of my cousins does all the work for him at Trump Towers. He does glass work, so he does all the work in his building. And he said that, he stops when he's in town and stops and talks to his guys that are working in the lobby or whatever. And he's, from everything I've heard, he's a genuinely nice guy. I've never met him. I don't know. I don't need to like everything about him, but for business sense, he's done very well.
Right.
And I would love to pick his brain to see if anything that I do is
right
remotely close to anything that he's done. But the most successful people in business a lot of times aren't the most liked people, and you make enemies along the way. Unfortunately, when you get to that level, I hope to never make enemies that way because I genuinely care about people. But to be able to speak with him and to have him say, "Yeah, you're doing a good job," or I appreciate what you do, and to get a couple pointers, it wouldn't be a bad thing.
Cool. So now this is a slightly different questions. I've never asked this before to anyone. So what's one thing that you like about Business Club?
Every week is different. I like the people that come, the difference in the people. It's definitely a mix that you don't see a lot of places. It's definitely a diverse group, which typically you don't see that at a lot of places either. So
nice.
I do like that. And it's an opportunity for me to learn something.
Cool.
Last week, I definitely was able to take away a few things from both the presenters.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to increase my knowledge on things. Even, I've gone a couple of times thinking, well, I do that already. I'm not going to learn anything. But like I told you, don't think you know everything.
Right.
And if you can walk away and say, I got something, you just have to, if you have an open mind and can really just accept.
Yep. So this is another question that I'm started to ask. Or rather, I've never asked. I will probably start to ask, what's one thing that you don't like about Business Club? Which we can, and it's a genuine feedback, and we'll see what we can do to improve it.
I preferred the one in Fort Mill because it was closer. I'm not a huge fan of going to Ballantyne, but other than that, and honestly, there's really not much. It's a really good group. I've known Steve for a long time.
Right.
I think I was in his very first group when he first started down here up in South Park.
Right.
So
you're not definitely getting paid for this, right?
Oh man, I thought that's what I was gonna. No, definitely not. No, it's. I really did like the being in Fort Mill.
Yeah.
We didn't have a huge group there, so I understand why we've kind of transitioned temporarily, at least over to
just temporary. We will come back to Fort Mill when we have a little bit more concrete plan in action. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, but other than, like I said, going to Ballantyne, I haven't really seen any negatives. I like the people, and like I said, every week I seem to be able to pick something up. So
cool. So, well, Sal, thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate it, Sudev.
It was a great conversation. Look forward to many such conversations.
Absolutely. Sounds great to me.
Cool.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, I hope you really liked the video, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and comment. And we would like to reach many more small business owners. I would really appreciate if you can share the video with them as well. Thank you, and see you until next time. Have a great one.